All right, I reckon we're close to getting going. Everyone's been kind enough to get going on rock up on time. I reckon we'll kick off. Nigel, what do you reckon?
Let's go, Mark.
All right, folks, welcome to today's webinar, which we've called Selling on Value or Selling Value. And this is a topic that Nigel and I have very close to our hearts. We think it's a real big opportunity in the bidding world today. Also joining, my name is Mark Riley. I'm the General Manager of the Bid Academy and a Principal Consultant with BidRight. And also lucky to have on the call with us Nigel Dennis. I'll get you to say hello in a minute. And also Lara Chorley, who's going to give us a hand with some of the machinery that we have involved in the session today. Do you want to say a quick hello, Nigel?
Yes, great to have people on the call today. Really looking forward to this session, Mark, as we always do. So let's get into it.
All right. So, folks, the context of the webinar today is through the course of our training and consulting lives, we often hear that it only matters, price is the only thing that matters, or price is very important and things like that. And that unpacks a lot of conversation around price and value and the difference between the two. And really, that's what we want to get into the next 30, 40 odd minutes is how do we go about understanding our customer, what they value, and communicating value in a way that shifts our focus away just from the bottom line price. So let's just crack up. I think what we'll do is we'll just start with a bit of a poll, all being well. So let me just get my slides moving. This is the moment my screen's chosen not to move. Let's try that. All right. Okay, first up, folks, we've got a bit of a first poll going on here. I'd like to find out from our lovely people on the call today, all 30 of you, welcome. How important is price in your world? So we're going to pop a little poll up on the screen in a minute. And essentially, it's going to ask you to pick one of the following four answers. So price is essential. Our clients only ever buy the cheapest. Price is important, but our clients consider other things. It's important, but other things matter more, or other things matter a lot more than price. So there it is on the screen. Just have a quick go, folks. And in a minute or so, we will share with you the results. So it looks like number 2 is an early winner, or looks like it's nudging ahead. Three quarters of us. We've got most people have voted. Final votes in. There we are. Do you want to just show those results, Lara, and just let me know if we're using
on the screen? Should be.
Brilliant stuff. There we are. So a vast majority, overwhelming majority in that it's important, but clients consider other things, which is super good and reinforces what we know and believe as people that do this day in, day out. So really good to know that not everybody on the call only have clients that buy the cheapest stuff. So that means we've got some things that we can help with. So brilliant. All right, let's what we'll do is let's do another one. If I can get my screen back, let me just move that. And let's try another one. All right. Have you ever won a tender without the lowest price? Folks, there's some options on the screen for you. No, never. I've heard of it happening once, many moons ago. Occasionally, yes, all the time. So interesting stuff. Now I think we're looking at the results as they emerge, but we'll have to share them with our colleagues when you're ready, Lara.
Interesting.
There we are. How's about that? So yes, occasionally winning from without the lowest price, but it's also saying there's a lot of occasions where lowest price is involved, right? So excellent stuff. So it can be done occasionally, it can be done more often. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. So yeah. Really good. Thanks for that, folks. What we'll do is just move on from there now and just talk about what we're going to talk about in this session is why selling values on matter. Why selling on value matters. I'm going to hand over to Nigel in a second. He's going to talk to you a little bit about that. Then we're going to come back and talk about how to find and communicate value. And then what we want to do is to talk a little bit about how you can actually master some of these skills using a couple of the programs that we run here at the Bid Academy, called the Certified Bid Writer program and the Bid Accelerator program. All right, so that's a bit of an intro. I'll hand over to Nigel now and take us through why selling on value matters. Nigel?
Yes, thank you, Mark. Let's talk about apples. How do we compare apples with apples? So we've got a bit of a quiz for you to consider now. And it comes down to this. You're in the market for an apple. You've got a choice of two apples. Apple A looks like that, and it costs $1.20. Apple B, on the other hand, looks like that and costs $1.50. So a 30 cents price differential between Apple A and Apple B. Now, you can afford both apples, but you only want one apple. The quiz is this: based on nothing other than what you see on the screen and what I've told you, which apple would you buy? Apple A or Apple B? Are you the Apple A camp or the Apple B camp? Let's have a look what the poll says. Gee, I'm disappointed no one's buying my Apple B, Mark.
Yeah, why is that, I wonder?
I thought it was...
How's the technology, by the way? We normally get people to pop a chat or vote, don't we? I'm loving a bit of technology involved in the webinar today, so it's all good.
Time to share the results. And what have we got, Mark, in this case? Apple A. Everyone wants Apple A.
100%. Well, interesting.
So, thanks, Lara. Let's overlay that with this question. What if I told you that Apple A was an imported apple? It has been stored for about 6 months before it hits your supermarket shelf, and it has come from an orchard with, or it uses unknown pesticides. Apple B, on the other hand, is a local apple. It's picked fresh from your local orchard just a day or two ago, and it is from an organic orchard that uses none of those horrible pesticides. Based on what you now know about those two apples, you both need one apple. Which apple would you now buy? An Apple B that costs 30 cents more, or would you stick with an Apple A? Let's have a look what the results now show us. My goodness me, an apple, we've still got an Apple A, good stuff. I'll be intrigued to know. So let's share those results, please, Lara. We have one Apple A person. That Apple A person, put in the chat for me why you wanted to stick with Apple A. Whoever that is, if you wouldn't mind, just stick with the chat. Why do you stick with Apple A? Just pop in the chat if you can. But overwhelmingly, people now see the value in the extra 30 cents. There will always be one outlier who is buying purely on price and price only, or is a budget cap they can't exceed. In this case, you didn't have a budget cap, but I get that you might be an Apple A person. We've done this exercise for a few years now, haven't we, Mark? And one person once said they selected Apple A because they just wanted to feed the apple to their horses. So they don't really, the horses didn't really mind where the apple came from or what it consisted of, but it was a horse's apple. So that was what we formed. So the version of this is that basically, why do we do that exercise? It's pretty straightforward. In the absence of any known difference or better value, people buy on price. So if we don't articulate what our value is, then often people just will go to the default, which is let's go to the lowest price on the table because we assume that they are the same. But that's on the occasion that the people buying your more expensive apple in this case, they must value that extra 30 cents. In the case of the person who just wanted it for their horses, they didn't really value the extra 30 cents, so they weren't prepared to pay for it. So that's what we've got to in terms of value and why value matters. We need to tell our value story. We don't believe that our value story is told enough in bids. So there's a simple equation that comes down to value, and it's basically this, that the value minus the cost of your solution has got to be greater than the value minus the cost of the next best alternative that the customer has a choice over. So that's the simple equation. Value minus cost has got to be greater than value of cost of the next best alternative. So this is what we talk about, value. So let's talk about value and the 4 principles of what we believe value is. The first of these...
Excuse me, no, I should forget. Are you seeing that I've got a question and answer tab on my screen? Are you seeing that or not? No, that's all good. Sorry for interrupting. I just thought it was in the way and couldn't shut it.
All good. No. The So what value matters? 4 principles of value. The first one we've already talked about. The customer must value, or they must want the value that you're offering. If they don't care about it, then you're not going to persuade them on value. The second one of these is, if they do value that value, and you can link that value to your differences from the competition, then that's a great principle to have in a bid. The third principle is this, is that if you can quantify that value, like we do in the Apple example, 30 cents more, 25% more, 30 cents is a great way to demonstrate compelling value. If you can quantify it, people get in their heads that they can measure this. So quantified value is incredibly compelling in bids. And the fourth part of value, the fourth principle of value, is that if you then quantify it, often you can present it visually. And visual representation of value in bids is even more powerful again. So let's run through that again. Customers got to value it. You can then differentiate yourself from your competition. If you can quantify it and graphically represent it, you've got a really compelling proposition to present value in your bids. Alrighty. So our goal in bids is this, is to shift the focus away from just price alone. And we believe, Mark and I believe, that this is one of the frontiers that still has a bit to go in many of the bids that we see in our consulting lives. If people just don't talk about the value of their price enough. They just assume that the customer will know that what their price represents without talking about the value that it represents. So we need to do some work on that. So Mark's going to, the rest of this webinar is going to focus on how we can do that and communicate that value. So Mark, I'm going to throw back to you.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Nigel. All right, let's keep on moving. So let's talk about finding and communicating value. And obviously, there's a whole topic around understanding your customer and how to engage with customers to gain information around what it is that matters to them, and which we don't have time to cover today. But fundamentally, the sorts of things that people are interested in kind of fall into sort of 5 different buckets. They might be financial, things to do with price, oddly enough, given the topic of today's conversation, but there's so many dimensions to that. Is it, confidence in the price? Is it a total cost of ownership? Are they looking to increase revenue or improve profit or something like that? So those are sort of common financial drivers. Then there's social drivers around, if you bid in Victoria a lot, local jobs is a big important agenda for Victorian government, and I'm sure it is in a lot of other Australian states. So there's things to do with job satisfaction, staff retention, brand recognition, all those kind of social factors. Quality is always a good one. Things to do with durability, reducing rework, productivity, increasing outputs, optimizing processes, reducing waste, etc. And then, of course, there's risk. So looking at potentially impact of a solution on the operating environment and the like. So the reason we just put these up is quite often when we're bidding, we rush into preset value propositions or conversations around things that we think are important to the customer. And we don't always dig around the edges and look for more stuff. So we put together this list, and you'll be able to come up with a zillion other ones as well, just to challenge people to think dimensionally about value and add diversity into their thinking. And when they're talking to their customer before the RFT, use this potentially as a way in to start conversations around what matters to them from a value perspective. Where do you look? Obviously, the customer representatives are the sort of key, the main source, if you like. So getting to know your customer and the people that are speaking on behalf of their organization, not surprisingly. Then next up is is essentially the customer-facing colleagues, who obviously know the clients as well as they possibly can. So all that, the good thing about 1 and 2 is you're looking for indicators of value that may or may not then be represented in the RFT or the proposal that comes out, the request for proposal that comes out. So once it does, then you've got your stated objectives, evaluation criteria, for example. Sometimes all of that information gives you a bit of a clue as to what your customers value. But by the time you're into 3 and 4, that's the information that everybody's got. So the more time you can put into talking to your customers and getting them to tell you what their personal and organizational drivers are, the better your value conversation can become later on. Now, moving beyond the RFT itself, then obviously you've got things like annual and strategic reports that you can have a look at to get kind of top level organizational motivations. At the moment, there's a lot in major organizational plans around working towards net zero, for example, and other kind of top level drivers, and all that type of stuff can be good measures of value to start thinking about. And then finally, you've got web searches and things like that. So you can start looking into the background of individuals or organizations to find out what matters to them. So like I said before, profiling customers, whole other topic for another day potentially. And there's a whole load of frameworks and tools that we have that we can use to help you organize those conversations and get better data that input into your proposals. All right, so any thoughts there, Nigel, on that before we kick on?
All good stuff. All good stuff. Just understanding where it's going to come from. Great tip there, Mark.
Nice one. All right, so let's pick one. So let's say I've done a fair bit of work with my customer, understanding that they want to, they're really interested in lowering their operating costs. Now, there could be a whole load of different things involved in their operating costs, but let's say that's something that they value. There's a couple of ways that people typically communicate value, right? And one of the first one that we see is a propensity for vagueness. All right, we don't necessarily want to make any clear commitments, so we might use weaselly type of language, such as what's on the screen, right? I can likely provide you with some possible savings on your maintenance costs. It's kind of, I sort of appreciate the intent, but I'm not really kind of buying it. I don't really know if I'm going to get what it is that I'm looking for. So one of the key takeouts from today is the drive to be more specific, right? So imagine if we reframe the same thing. We've done a little bit of work, but we've actually been a lot more specific and said that, look, with our software, it costs $100 a month, we can save you 20% on your annual maintenance budget in the first year. That is just so much more compelling. But you say, there's risk involved in that because I've made a specific commitment, and everyone's like, oh, I don't want to make a commitment. But therein lies the challenge of selling on value, is pushing hard, avoid being vague, and try to be as specific as you can. The other thing that we work really hard on is communicating value through benefit statements. And one of the things we do a lot of in the Certified Bid Writer program is spend a bit of time in how to actually structure benefit statements properly. You might hear things like strategy statements, value propositions, win themes that all often cover this thing, but we're trying to simplify the language and just concentrate on how to create benefit statements that are structured in a way to encourage you to be specific and powerful in the way that you communicate your value. So on the screen, it's a very simple structure. What's good about it is it starts with the customer up front. And what I like about just having this framework is just because it's forcing me to start with the customer, it makes me change the way that I think. I naturally want to say I'm great, or our thing is amazing, or our widget is fabulous. But actually forcing yourself to put it in the customer's perspective is kind of transformational in terms of communicating value, right? The second thing that's good about this is it gets you to get to the benefit or the outcome very quickly. So customer get benefit, which is really powerful. And then if they don't bother finishing the rest of the sentence, they at least understand what's in it for them. The next bit is an attempt to quantify. So they're going to get a benefit in a bucket of how much as a result of the last part. Oh, sorry. The last part, which is ideally a solution approach or a discriminator, something that you can do that nobody else can do. So really good little formula to take away. It is challenging, or it can be challenging, to sort of be able to talk about all of those sort of 4 areas of that structure, but take on the challenge and give it a go. And quite often there's a whole workflow that needs to happen behind, particularly the process of quantification, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. All right, so that's the plan, right? We want to be able to talk to our customers in a specific, customer-centric, quantifiable manner, and also at the same time differentiate ourselves from the competition. Simple, right? No, not really, and that's why it doesn't get done so well. So what we're going to just share with you now is a fairly straightforward framework that we use, and we cover this one in the Bid Accelerator in First Up, and also in I think actually in the Bid Writer program as well. So in this one, essentially it's a 9-step framework, and the way it works is, first up, we're looking to identify the value that's on offer or that we're interested in. So let's say I want to lower my operating costs. Next up, then I want to connect with the customer. So I want to check in and say, does my customer really want that? And that's really important, right? Like Nigel was saying before, your customer needs to value the value that is on offer. So all but one person valued the 30 cents of that was all wrapped up in fresh produce, local produce, and produce that's been put together with organic nurturing techniques and things like that, right? So really important to connect back to your customer on the topic that you're looking to quantify. Then you want to sort of check that you can differentiate on this topic. So in our example here, we can reduce costs, using our unique asset management platform, let's say. Next up, you want to assess the value's potential to quantify. So I want to kind of tell a story around reducing operating costs. Can I actually quantify this? And so in my little framework, I'm going, oh yeah, what I'm going to do is put in a savings glide path over the next 3 years that's going to show the progressive reduction of operating costs. So far, so good, tick. Customer wants it. We know they want it. We can differentiate on the topic, and we think we can quantify. So we're onto a winner here, right? Next up, then I want to develop a target value statement or benefit statement, I should say. So there's one on the screen there that's sort of through the efficiency gains through our tech platform, you're going to get a saving of something over some sort of time, right? So I don't know yet what the savings are or how long it's going to take, but this is what what I would like to be able to say to the customer, right? So that means I've then got to go and plan and do some work. And this is the bit that doesn't often get done because we kind of want to get to the point where we offer some sort of percentage savings, but we might end up having a bit of a guess, right? And then people get a bit worried about putting numbers in, and we retract and we go back to some substantial or significant savings. So let's plan to do some work. So, all right, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to understand the current spending baseline. Then I'm going to benchmark to identify savings areas and estimate and put some estimate ranges in, and then I'm going to get sign off from our delivery team. This is actually a deliverable thing, right? So all about managing the risk or the fear of putting commitment into our bids. Next, I go and do the work. So I do all the work. So Jane's gone off and done all the stuff that I've said and done the savings estimates and so on and so forth. And then I can finalize my my benefit statement. and I've landed on the fact that we're committing to 25% savings per year in your maintenance spend. So it's sort of it's not so much a simple, but a logical process to take you through the theory. And actually, I guess what it's asking you to do is to put a work stream into your bid management processes that are around quantification of value, rather than just sort of thumb in the air and see how we go. All right, the final step is then, well, can I do this with anything else? Right. So are there any other types of value where I can look to try to quantify, and then I'd sort of work through this process? That makes sense? Simple.
Great stuff. No, it's great stuff, Mark. And I think that one of the things that people see when they or think when they see this is that, oh, it doesn't apply to my business, it doesn't apply to my bid, it doesn't apply to my particular circumstances or context. We find that when we workshop this with the people that run through the Bid Accelerator program, and that we take them into their workplaces and do this, they're very surprised at the application that this can get in their workplace. If they just open their mind a little bit and open their ideas to what can be achieved, we find that we can very quickly really identify potential opportunities to express value in bids. And it's going to differ from bid to bid. But when we workshop these in the Bid Accelerator program and the Bid Writer program with the people that attend those workshops, then we find that there's some light bulbs go on and say, if only I could do this earlier, and I didn't know it was that easy to communicate value in bids. It can be done. It can be done reasonably simply, but it's going to open your mind to it.
Stephen in the chat's got a really good question. So what if you're not the incumbent and you don't know the customer spend, right? So really good question. Sometimes there's spend data that's wrapped up in the RFT. Sometimes there isn't. There's Tom Santz and Chris did a really good paper 2 or 3 years about using statistical techniques to estimate, represent costs based on certain data points and things like that. And I'll try and dig that reference out. But the other thing that you can do, Stephen, is use related data or related examples. So if you're an experienced provider in this field, you might look at the size of the portfolio and the volume of FM spend, for example, and make some qualified assumptions based on a scenario that's similar to yours without being the exact one. So you're kind of implying that you've kind of done this thing before, and these are the orders of magnitude that you can be looking to save, subject to all the due diligence and data validation that you would need to do.
Steve, that's a great question, Steve, and we know each other from way back, but I reckon you know the answer to that, Steve, and I reckon you know that if we do a bit of work, the company you work with, do a bit of work, and particularly early on, that's the key here. If we do that early positioning work early on, we may not be able to find the actual budget. We can find enough about the clues and the competitors, particularly in the IT industry, for example. There's some clues around that we can get to that, Steve. So I reckon you know the answer to that, Steve, and it's the work up front that will help us position and to tease out the value that we could apply here. So good question, Steve, because it's not. We always think often that when the bid drops, how can I express value? We don't know enough about the customer, and that's a broader issue. Let's learn more about the customer. And if we don't learn enough about the budget, we can learn enough about their particular motivations or where they're striving to achieve savings potentially. Yes, you do, Steve. You absolutely do.
Great question. Hey, we better keep moving. Just Nigel and I presented this at APP conference a little while back now, and we asked the audience what I'm going to ask you now, right, is why wouldn't you do that? And if you can just pop your thoughts in the chat, we'll kind of circle back on those as we go through the rest of it. I better keep on moving.
Selena's got another great question in there, Mark. It says it's easier in products, and it is. It's harder in professional services. You know what, Selena? Professional services potentially are all about efficiency and outcomes. If you look on the outcomes, what they're trying to achieve, then you can really couch the value in those terms. So don't think it as as we're pushing wheelbarrow, it's hours based, because that's what professional services are. If you think about the outcomes and what we can achieve and what your customer particularly is trying to achieve by those outcomes, then we think about the value in those terms, not about just, oh, I can save you 3 hours here or 4 hours here or 100 hours over this period of time. We talk about the outcomes based. If you do that, then the challenge that we have with professional services is that, but I can't do it in my world. We've worked with people quite often, lawyers, accountants, consultants, that can provide that value equation in bids. It can be done. It is a bit more challenging, and get it, but it can be done. Julia says it's perhaps more qualitative based. Yes, we can talk about value in qualitative terms. As Mark said, there's 5 types of value, and it's not all just economic or financial value. We can couch value in other terms, which is why we put up there's 5. We group those 5 types of value. So explore one of those, and the services based bids, you're typically exploring other areas other than just the first one, which is financial. So really good observation there, Jack. It's more qualitative based, which is what areas 2 to 5 are in the value equations. Use an example you can quantify, reference customer. Yes, that's a great idea, Stephen. Brilliant idea. Yes, so there's some good chats there going on. What else is there, Mark?
So, yeah, in the chat, I'm not seeing any at the moment, but if you've got any barriers to doing this, what's stopping you? We asked at a conference a little while back about why wouldn't you do this? And we heard lots of things like, don't have the information, don't have the time, my immediate stakeholders don't know about it, etc., etc. So that perception is overwhelmingly in the industry, and we get it. We work in that world every day, right? We just know there's so much value, funnily enough, on offer through getting better at communicating value. So try to find ways to shoehorn it into your process. You just might need to do things differently to what you're doing at the moment. All right, we better keep moving. So that's a little bit about finding, communicating, just a bit about where. One of the things we advocate in both of our programs is using the front page of your proposals and your tenders to the maximum effect. Get a headline that's value related right on the front cover, and then start building your story through what we call the front pages. So the front cover, the cover letter, the second one from the left, and then potentially your exec summary, right? So and what we're looking to do is make sure we communicate that value consistently. So the headline, we're talking about that kind of reducing operating costs in our example, and I'd want to be reiterating that through the cover page into the exec summary as that overarching theme. So I become the bid that is defined as the organization that's going to reduce my operating costs, and just doing that one thing will set you apart from many other people that you're competing against. Then you get to, in your cover letter, the one second from the left is bringing your win themes. And these are all kind of the positive areas of value that you're going to add. And then you can follow that storyline through into your exec summary and tell a little bit more of a story. Your benefit statements sit in here. And then you bring in some highlights of your solution for each win theme and a little bit of proof. So you're sort of beginning to tell a cohesive story right from the front page that's all about the customer and all about the value that you're going to offer. So that quantification process of creating a powerful benefit statement, you can put a hybrid of that in your cover letter, if you see what I mean. So you've got a theme, reducing something, then your benefit statement, which becomes one of those 3 bullets in the cover letter. And then you can kind of expand on that and put the full benefit statement in your exec summary, and then explain your story to resolve all of that. Good stuff. Well, that brings us through to the last part, which is, okay, there's a lot in there. There's lots of aspects. There's the technical nature of what you need to do. There's the behavioral thing about how do I get it done in my organizational world where I'm bidding all the time, and there's people that don't have the focus or the energy or the appetite. What do we do? How do we go about mastering these skills? And that's so I hand over to Nigel now, who's going to tell you all about that.
Thank you, Mark. Well, what's the point of coming on a webinar if you're not going to learn stuff? And what's the point of progressing in life in your careers if you're not going to learn more and develop? So we believe that at the Bid Academy that you really need to master skills and keep mastering, keep learning, keep developing. Mark and I are still learning. Every webinar we go on, we learn something new from the people that come on with us. So there's a few options about how to master skill. Basically, you can say, well, I don't have time. My job's too busy. I run already running 50 or 60 hours a week, and I've got a full plate, doing heaps of bid. Deadlines are overwhelming me. I just don't have time. Or we can say, how am I going to remember everything if I just go to a short workshop and do a brain dump? And how am I going to get into that in practice? I just don't. We all know that going on to a one-day workshop, we lose 95% of what we actually get. Then you might ask the question, well, who do I learn from? I need to recognize that I do need to do some learning or increase improvement, some self-development. Where do I go to learn that stuff from? And there are choices out there. We understand there's choices out there. And how do I pick a program that's best suited to me? And what do I need from, what I actually need to learn, or who do I need to learn it from? So you've got all these choices about what you can do and where you can go from here. So these are what you can do with those, all the questions you have. You can just do nothing. Carry on as you are right at this point in time. Or you can go to that conventional training I just talked about, that the 1 day, 2 day workshop where it's all great for those 2 days, but let's face it, when we go and move away from that environment, we don't retain much of what we actually learn. So that's what that conventional training, particularly in this bidding space, we've found over the years, there's a lot of this training around the world. Or what you can think about is this training as a more contemporary learning experience. And that's what the Bid Academy does, is takes you along this journey of, hey, I need to learn, develop more in the contemporary way, and that's adult learning. And we believe that programs we've got delve into that. What we've done is challenge the conventional training program and say that there's other options. And based on the years of training we've done, we've trained some 4,500 people. We talked about earlier now, Mark, over the 14, 15 years that BidRight's been going. There's the mostly one-way, high-volume, short-duration courses out there where you really don't learn a lot. And we find that there's low retention rates, low RNI on training investments. So you pay less for those shorter courses potentially, but the ROI is very lower too. Am I going anything to add at this point, Mark, about that?
No, I just think it's the other couple of points on there around you inevitably interpret what you learn on those courses based on your reality, right? So and there's no one really there to help you work out, did I interpret that concept or technique in the right way? I've kind of done it based on what I think. And so you kind of have a bit of a guess about applying it. I mean, we do try and make all our tools as practical as possible, but inevitably there's a bit of that personal bias. And the other thing is, if you don't use everything, you forget it, right? So it sort of goes into a fairly shallow part of your brain, and then it's, unless you're activating it and sort of putting it into a different part of your subconscious, then it kind of just goes. So which is part of the reason we've sort of changed the structure of the way that we deliver the learning these days.
Right. So we want to just quickly, in a couple of minutes, just outline the two programs that we've developed over the last couple of years. One's called the Bid Accelerator, and the other's Certified Bid Writer. The Bid Accelerator is a 12-module, 12 weeks. Run through that in a moment. Basically 1 to 2 hours of effort a week. You get a micro credential, the Bid Accelerator micro credential. It's basically an hour a week of live group coaching. And there's an exam and graduation session at the end. And the Certified Bid Writer is 9 modules, a similar format, micro credential, live group coaching, where you get to bring your issues and problems and you cement those issues they're having. So the practical learning outcomes of those. So that's what we've got. The Bid Accelerator, which course is best for you? basically depends on where you sit in what role you have and what you're willing to get out of it. If you want to learn best practice across the entire bid life cycle, that's from the early positioning phase to the planning and development and the writing into the pitching phase even, then Bid Accelerator is probably the one for you. You're not winning enough. If you're new to bidding, if bidding feels chaotic and reactive, if you want to uplift your bidding capability within either individual and your teams, then probably the Bid Accelerator is the one for you. If you want to deep dive into the writing parts of it, then the certified bid writer one is the really one for you. If you want to have a related qualification in bid writing and looking to develop a new career in bid writing, or just enter the bid writing world and want to know how can I get better at bid writing, because let's face it, bid people generally just fall into the profession, then this is the course that you want. Bid writing is a really different skill to all other forms of writing. And so people just don't get taught how to write properly in bids. They just take what they think they know about writing, but often they've been given the wrong steer in terms of what's actually required to create a really great bid writer. Again, it's good for bids, good for bid teams to upskill your capability in that area. So they're the courses that are on offer. You get access to a learning management system, online learning management system. You can basically learn in your own time. This is the certified bid writer, the 9 modules of the certified bid writer that we're running. We're running one at the moment. We're starting another one next week, aren't we, Mark? Yes, yep. We are. Starting another one next week. We've got 3 courses on the go at the moment, 2 bid accelerators and a certified bid writer. They're so much fun. We enjoy them. So that's all the online platform to access to the videos and learning management system. Then you basically get the online videos and exercises for the modules. You have the weekly live coaching sessions with Mark and I, or one of us. Often it's both. We both have a lot of fun. It's the highlight of our week, isn't it? The hours of power. Mark, that's what we call them, the live coaching sessions. We have a lot of fun with those. But the great thing about it is from week to week, you get time to test and develop those concepts. You learn a module a week. So you basically got a week to cement those in your workplace. And so many people have come on these courses and said, oh, this is such a good time for me because I'm just doing this bit for this bid right now. So we can work on those live bids and bring it to the group the following week and workshop how we embed those in your workplaces, ongoing quizzes. And the great thing about this stuff is the value that others in your cohort bring to the group too. They share their ideas and get ideas from them. And so it's a really wonderful learning experience. We're all good mates at the end of their learning experience after that. So they cover the right things. They certainly very much in the real practical world. As Mark said, we live in this. Mark and I have lived in this world for a fair few more years than we probably care to remember. But we live this day in day out as well in the clients that we help, and it's certainly a logical progressive sequence of bidding. And the great thing is you can fit it in around your lifestyle. So for those who say I haven't got time, it's a couple of hours a week. You can fit that in when you're walking the dog, if that's what you need to do. Watch the videos on your phone and walk the dog at the same time. As long as you don't walk into those telephone poles, you should be all right. But yeah, you can really, there's no time excuse is not that. We've got a couple of program intakes happening. June's the next one's the Bid Accelerator. We're running 2 of those at the moment. The next one's in June. And the Bid Accelerator is Bid Writer 1 starts next week. We're looking forward to that, aren't we? A couple of places left on that. It's only a couple though. So I would advise you to get in quick. So we can also run in-house programs, but what do you need to do? What do you need to know? It's basically that cost, which is great return on investment. We talk about value. It really works out at a small cost per week. If you want to look at it, you get all the access to the learning materials, live coaching sessions, assessment and feedback, and we've got an offer for you at the end. What do you do about it? what can you do about it? What would you like to know more about this? Then there's all that for just an hour or two a week, really, of your time. So it really is a great learning opportunity over that time. Rather than cram it into a day or two, we spread it out and embed that learning capability over that period of time. So what do you do now? There's 4 ways for you to take action to improve your career and your job prospects, value to your company. The return on investment is incredible. You'll get a follow-up email tomorrow because you've attended this webinar, and I think that has the slides in. Does the slide deck in that email as well, doesn't it, Mark, or not?
I don't think so, but you'll get a recording, access to a recording.
Yeah, a link to the recording. There we go. You can click the link to the chat for info pack, or you can stay on after this call and Mark and I will have a chat about it once the call finishes. Or Lara is going to pop in a link in the chat now to book a call, and that's convenient for you, and Mark and I will jump on that call and walk through whatever questions you need to know. We'll give freely of our time to improve your learning journey. What else do we need to know, Mark? What else do they need to know?
I think that's it. I think probably what would be good is if there's been something useful for you in this session, just pop it in the chat. We'll keep an eye on that as we go out. That brings us to the end of the session today. If you do want to stay on, find out more, have a chat, even if it's not about enrolling in the courses, just we'll hang on around for the next 10 minutes or so and go from there. But if you're departing, thank you so much for your time. Hope the rest of the day is super productive and that you all stay fit and well, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks all. Have a great day.